She changed her story 3 times. First, she said she was never there. Then she said 2 men in ski masks did it. Then she said it was self-defense. And then she took the witness stand for 18 days straight, the longest defendant testimony in the history of Arizona courts, while millions of Americans watched her live on cable television. My name is Miles Ghost Hunter, and tonight I am opening a case file that broke every rule of how this country watches murder trials. Remove the children from the screen. What you are about to hear is not a drama. It is a real investigation into a real killing, and the woman at the center of it is still alive today in Perryville State Prison, selling paintings from her cell. The name of the victim was Travis Alexander. He was 30 years old. He was found in the master bathroom of his own house at 6432 East Queensboro Avenue in Mesa, Arizona, on the evening of June 9, 2008. The friends who found him had been trying to reach him for 5 days. His phone went to voicemail. His computer was silent. He had missed a business trip to Cancun that he had been planning for months. And when his roommate opened the door on the 2nd floor of that house, the smell hit him so hard he stumbled backward into the hallway and fell against the wall. Travis Alexander was not a stranger to success. He had grown up poor in Riverside, California, the oldest of 7 children raised in a home where both parents struggled with methamphetamine addiction. He lost his father at 11. He lost his mother at 14. He was raised from that point forward by his grandmother, Norma Sarvey, a woman who took him to a Mormon congregation every Sunday and told him that faith was the only inheritance she could leave him. Travis listened. He was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when he was 17 years old, and from that moment on, every choice he made was measured against the framework of that faith. He moved to Mesa, Arizona, in his early 20s. He joined a company called Prepaid Legal Services, a multi-level marketing business that sold legal plans to working-class Americans. And Travis Alexander was extraordinary at it. He had the face of a man who believed what he was saying. He had the voice of a man who had climbed out of something dark and wanted to pull others up with him. By 2007, he was one of the top earners in the entire company. He was giving speeches at conventions in front of thousands of people. He had written a book manuscript titled Raising You. He was building a life that from the outside looked like a sermon in motion. Inside that life was a 3,000 square foot house that he had purchased in 2006. Inside that house was a master bedroom, a master bathroom, a home office, a guest room, and a 2-car garage. Inside that house, on the morning of June 4, 2008, was a woman named Jodi Arias. She had driven over 1,000 miles to be there. She was not supposed to be there. She had not been his girlfriend for almost a year. And before the sun set that day, Travis Alexander would be dead. But to understand what happened in that bathroom, you have to understand how she got there. You have to understand what she was. And that, my friends, is a much longer story. Jodi Arias was born on July 9, 1980, in Salinas, California. Her parents ran a restaurant. She was the oldest of 4 children. By every account of those who knew her growing up, she was quiet, intelligent, artistic. She drew constantly. She took thousands of photographs. She dropped out of high school at 16, but later told people she had been close to the top of her class before she left. She worked in restaurants. She worked as a waitress. She moved between boyfriends, between towns, between Wairika, California, and Palm Desert, and back again. She was beautiful. She had long, dark hair, blue eyes, a soft way of speaking that made men pay attention to her in rooms full of other people. In September of 2006, Jodi Arias walked into a prepaid legal services convention at the Marriott Hotel in Las Vegas. She was 26 years old. She was there because a friend had invited her, because she was curious about the company, because her life in California was stalling and she wanted something to happen. At that convention, she met Travis Alexander. He was standing near an escalator. She would later tell investigators that she felt something in that moment, something she could not explain, something that told her this man was going to be important to her life. He took her number. He called her 2 days later. Within weeks, they were in a long-distance relationship, and within 4 months, Jodi Arias had been baptized into the Mormon church by Travis Alexander himself, kneeling beside her in white clothing, promising God that she would walk in the light of his commandments for the rest of her life. She converted for him. Let that sit for a moment. She changed her entire spiritual identity, her diet, her language, her clothing, her community, for a man she had known for 120 days. Their relationship was a public one and a private one, and those two relationships did not match. In public, Travis introduced her as a friend. In public, he spoke about wanting to find a Mormon woman to marry in the temple, a woman he could have a celestial family with, a woman who fit the vision of his faith. In private, he was sleeping with Jodi Arias regularly. He was recording phone calls with her. He was exchanging explicit messages with her. He was keeping her in a compartment of his life that he refused to acknowledge to his friends, to his congregation, to his family. By February of 2007, Jodi had moved from California to Mesa, Arizona, to be closer to him. She rented a small apartment. She got a job at a restaurant. She started attending Travis's ward. She sat in the congregation and watched him give talks about purity and repentance, knowing what he had done with her the night before. His friends noticed her. His friends did not like her. There was something about the way she looked at him, they said later, something that was not normal attraction but something closer to possession. One friend described it as the stare of a woman who had decided this man belonged to her and was simply waiting for him to understand it. In June of 2007, Travis ended the relationship. He told Jodi that they were not compatible. He told her that he needed to find someone he could marry in the temple. He told her, in a text message later entered into court evidence, that he had realized she was not the one. Jodi Arias did not accept this. That is the single most important sentence of this case. She did not accept it. In the weeks that followed the breakup, things began happening around Travis Alexander that he did not understand at first. He would go to check his email and find that he was locked out of his account. His passwords had been changed. He would log back in and find that emails he had received from other women, emails about dates, emails about potential relationships, had been read and in some cases deleted. His cell phone records, he discovered later, were being monitored. Someone had accessed his online account and was pulling detailed lists of every call he had made and every text he had sent. His friends started receiving anonymous messages about him, messages that painted him in a negative light. Messages that quoted things he had said only in private. He told a friend in the fall of 2007 that he believed Jodi was hacking into everything he had. She was still living in Mesa. She was still attending his ward. She was still showing up at his house. He let her in. This is the part that is difficult. This is the part that every person who has ever been trapped in a pattern they cannot break will understand. He tried to end it, and he kept letting her back in. He was sleeping with her while telling his friends he was not. He was on the phone with her for hours at night while dating other women during the day. He was caught, emotionally and physically, in a cycle that he could not escape, and Jodi Arias knew that cycle better than he did, because she was the one maintaining it. In April of 2008, Jodi Arias moved back to California, officially, publicly. She told everyone she was done with Arizona. She told everyone she was ready to move on. She moved into her grandparents' house in Wairika, a small town near the Oregon border, almost exactly 1,000 miles from Mesa. She took a job. She started dating another man named Ryan Burns, a fellow prepaid legal employee who lived in Utah. She made plans with Ryan to meet for the first time in person on June 5, 2008, at his apartment in West Jordan, Utah. On May 28, 2008, a .25 caliber handgun was reported stolen from the home of her grandparents in Wairika. Also missing from the home were some compact discs and a camera. Local police filed a report. The case was listed as a possible burglary. No suspect was identified. On June 2, 2008, Jodi Arias rented a white Ford Focus from a budget rental location in Redding, California. She specifically requested a car that was not red. She specifically asked the agent to remove any company stickers or markings from the vehicle. She filled it with fuel. She loaded it with gas cans. She began driving. She did not drive east toward Utah, where Ryan Burns was expecting her. She drove south. She drove down the length of California, through the Mojave Desert, into Arizona. She arrived in Mesa in the early morning hours of June 4th. She had told no one she was coming. She had told no one she was in Arizona. She had sent text messages to Travis Alexander on the way, casual messages, friendly messages, to maintain the fiction that she was 1,000 miles away. She arrived at Travis's house. He let her in. Of course he did. What happened over the next several hours was photographed, in part, by Travis Alexander's own digital camera, a Canon Sure Shot that he kept in a case by his bed. They took photographs of each other throughout the afternoon. Intimate photographs. Photographs that in court would be shown to jurors who had to be warned in advance about what they were about to see. The last photograph taken of Travis Alexander alive was captured at 5:29 p.m. on June 4th, 2008. He was in the shower. He was sitting on the floor of the shower. He was looking up at the camera. He was alive. He was smiling slightly. It was the photograph of a man in an ordinary moment of an ordinary day, taken by a woman he thought he knew. 62 seconds later, at 5:30 and 30 seconds, the camera captured another photograph, accidentally, while falling to the bathroom floor. The photograph was blurred and tilted, but in the frame, you could see the ceiling of the bathroom, part of the wall, and the leg of a person on the floor. There was red on the leg. There was red on the tile. What had happened in those 62 seconds was the beginning of an attack so violent that investigators who had worked homicide for 20 years struggled to describe it in the language of a courtroom. A third photograph, taken several minutes later, captured something far worse. It showed Travis Alexander being dragged across the bathroom floor. A figure was visible in the reflection of the mirror, holding him. That figure was Jodi Arias. She was still wearing the clothes from earlier in the afternoon. Travis Alexander was attacked with a knife and a firearm. He was attacked in the shower. He was attacked in the sink area. He was attacked in the hallway leading to the bedroom. The attack ended with a single gunshot to the head and a final injury to the throat. The medical examiner would later testify that the total time of the incident, from first injury to last, was approximately 1 to 2 minutes. There were defensive wounds on his hands. He had tried to fight back. He had not been able to. After the attack ended, Jodi Arias remained in the house for a period of time. She attempted to clean the scene. She attempted to move the body. She placed Travis Alexander back in the shower. She turned on the water. She gathered the camera and took it downstairs. She placed the camera inside the washing machine in the laundry room and started a cycle. She believed, apparently, that the water would destroy the memory card. She was wrong. She took the bed sheets. She took towels. She took items of clothing. She placed them in the washing machine as well. She then left the house. She got back into the white Ford Focus. She drove north. She drove through the night. She arrived at Ryan Burns' apartment in West Jordan, Utah, late on June 5th. Ryan Burns would later testify that Jodi Arias arrived with bandages on 2 of her fingers. He would later testify that she seemed unusually affectionate, unusually intense, unusually present, as if she were 10. He would later testify that she seemed unusually affectionate, unusually intense, unusually present, as if she were trying very hard to be exactly the woman he wanted her to be. She stayed at his apartment for 2 nights. They went out to eat. They watched movies. She kissed him. She slept in his bed. And the entire time, 1,000 miles behind her, Travis Alexander was lying dead in the shower of his own home, and no one knew it yet. On June 9, 2008, Travis Alexander's friends forced their way into his house. They had been calling him. They had been texting him. He had missed a planned trip to Cancun. Something was wrong. Two friends and a roommate climbed the stairs to the master bedroom. The roommate opened the door to the master bathroom. He saw a shape in the shower. He called 911. The operator recorded every word. You can still find that call today. The friend in the background is screaming. The roommate is trying to speak. The operator is asking questions that no one can answer. By midnight on June 9th, Mesa Police Department had the house sealed. Crime scene investigators entered the bathroom. They documented what they saw. They documented it slowly, methodically, because they had to. Because a case this violent required every angle, every surface, every fiber. Detective Esteban Flores was assigned as the lead investigator. He stood in that bathroom. He looked at the scene. And within minutes, he said later, he had a feeling that this was not a random attack. This was not a stranger. This was someone who had known Travis Alexander intimately, someone who had been in that house before, someone who had hated him with a precision that only love can produce. The first round of investigation followed the expected paths. Detectives interviewed friends. They pulled phone records. They checked security footage from nearby streets. They looked at financial records. They searched for signs of forced entry. There were none. The doors were locked. The windows were intact. The alarm system had been disabled from the inside by someone who knew the code. Nothing of value was missing. Cash was still in the house. Electronics were untouched. His car was in the garage. The narrative of a burglary gone wrong collapsed within 48 hours. The investigation turned toward people who had known Travis. And every single friend, without coordinating their answers, gave the detectives the same name: Jodi Arias. They said she was obsessive. They said she had been stalking him. They said she had hacked his email. They said she had shown up at his house uninvited more than once. They said they had warned him. They said he had not listened. One friend, a woman named Taylor Searle, told detectives that she had personally spoken with Travis 2 weeks before his death. He had told her, quote, "Jodi is going to kill me one day, and no one is going to believe it when she does." Detective Flores called Jodi Arias on June 10, 2008, on the phone number listed for her in Yreka, California. She answered. She sounded shocked when he told her the news. She cried. She said she could not believe it. She said she had been in California the whole time. She said she had not seen Travis in months. She said she would do anything to help the investigation. She volunteered, on that first call, to come to Arizona and speak to detectives in person. This is where the investigation began to accelerate in two directions at once. On one side, the forensic evidence was being processed. On the other side, Jodi Arias was making statements that could be tested against that evidence, and the gap between what she was saying and what the evidence was showing began, day by day, to become a canyon. The crime scene yielded more than anyone expected. Inside the washing machine in the laundry room of Travis Alexander's house, investigators found a digital camera, a Canon Sure Shot, wet, cold, apparently destroyed. They bagged it as evidence. They sent it to a digital forensics lab. And there, a technician named Maria de la Rosa attempted to recover data from the memory card. What she pulled from that waterlogged card became the single most important piece of evidence in the entire case. The memory card contained hundreds of photographs, some of them erased but recoverable, others intact. Among them were photographs taken on the afternoon of June 4, 2008. Photographs of Jodi Arias in Travis Alexander's bedroom. Photographs of Travis Alexander in his shower, alive. and the 2 accidental photographs taken during the attack itself, the tilted shots of the bathroom floor, the reflection in the mirror, the leg on the tile, the figure dragging the body. When Detective Flores saw those photographs, he understood that he was no longer investigating a mystery. He was investigating a confession that the killer had written herself, in pixels, and then tried to drown. On July 15, 2008, Jodi Arias was arrested at her grandparents' house in Yreka, California. She was extradited to Arizona. She was placed in the Estrella jail in Maricopa County, and from the moment she was arrested, she began giving interviews to police, to detectives, to reporters. She sat for hours in interrogation rooms and she spoke. Her first version was simple. She said she had not been in Arizona on June 4th. She said she had been nowhere near Mesa. She said the last time she had seen Travis Alexander was months earlier. When investigators confronted her with the photographs from the camera, her face changed. She looked at them, she studied them, and then she shifted. Her second version emerged in an interview she gave to the news program Inside Edition, and later repeated in other interviews with investigators. In this version, she admitted she had been at the house on June 4th, but she said they had been attacked. She said 2 intruders had entered the home while she and Travis were together. She said a man and a woman, both wearing masks, had broken in, attacked Travis, and then turned on her. She said she had fled. She said she had been so traumatized that she had blocked parts of the memory. She said she was afraid to come forward because the intruders had threatened her family. This story, repeated under oath, under cameras, with tears, was a story that collapsed under the weight of every piece of physical evidence in the file. There were no intruders. There was no second attacker. There was no forced entry. There was no DNA belonging to any unknown person anywhere in the house. There was only one set of bloody shoe prints in the bathroom. There was only one palm print on the wall in a mixture of Travis Alexander's blood. And that palm print, after analysis, matched Jodi Arias. Facing a mountain of evidence that was about to become a trial, Jodi Arias and her defense team changed their story one final time. In 2010, almost 2 years after the killing, she adopted her third and final version. Yes, she said, she had been the only other person in the house. Yes, she had killed Travis Alexander. But, she insisted, it had been self-defense. She said Travis had been abusing her for the entire length of their relationship. She said he had been a sexual predator with a secret life. She said on June 4th he had become enraged when she dropped his camera, and that he had lunged at her, and she had defended herself, and she had no memory of what had happened next. 3 stories, 3 completely different accounts of the same afternoon. The same woman, telling them to the same people, across the span of 2 years. And now, to survive, she needed to make a jury believe the third one. The truth of what happened between Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias is neither the romance she first claimed, nor the horror story she built in her defense. The truth is more disturbing because it is recognizable. It is a case study in how obsession disguises itself as devotion, and how a person can decide that if they cannot have someone, no one else will. The truth is this. From the day they met at that convention in September of 2006, Jodi Arias did not see Travis Alexander as a boyfriend. She saw him as a destination. She converted her religion for him within weeks. She moved across state lines for him within months. She attended his ward, sat in his pews, watched him speak, and absorbed the details of his life with the focus of someone building a replica. When he tried to end the relationship in June of 2007, she did not end her access to him. She escalated. She moved closer. She entered his private accounts. She tracked his messages. She read his emails. She learned the names of every woman he was speaking to. She contacted some of them, pretending to be a friend, to warn them away. When Travis started dating a woman named Lisa Andrews seriously in late 2007, Jodi Arias slipped into his house in the middle of the night and watched them sleep. Travis woke up and saw her standing at the foot of the bed. Lisa Andrews, terrified, ended her relationship with Travis the next week. Jodi later denied this incident, but friends of both Travis and Lisa confirmed it independently under oath. By the spring of 2008, Travis Alexander had decided, quietly and without announcement, to cut Jodi Arias off completely. He planned his Cancun trip with another woman, a woman he genuinely liked, a woman named Mimi Hall. He intended, his friends later said, to come home from Cancun and change his locks, change his phone number, and disappear from Jodi's reach for good. He had told several friends this plan. He had told his brother this plan. Jodi Arias somehow learned of this plan. Whether she learned it through his email, through his phone, through a friend she had charmed into telling her, or through some combination, she learned it. And in the last week of May 2008, she began preparing. She reported a gun stolen from her grandparents' home, a .25 caliber pistol. The same caliber as the bullet later recovered from Travis Alexander's body. She dyed her hair. She rented a car and asked for one that could not be easily identified. She filled it with gas cans to avoid being seen at stations. She drove through the night. She did not go to Mesa to confront him. She did not go to Mesa to talk. She went to Mesa to kill him before he could leave her life permanently. The attack in that bathroom was not a crime of passion. It was a plan that had been forming in her mind for weeks. Every detail of her preparation showed foresight. Every detail of the attack itself showed rage. And every detail of the cleanup afterward showed a woman attempting, with the tools she had, to make herself disappear from a scene she had spent 2 days driving toward. The photographs from the camera in the washing machine were the Rosetta Stone of the case. They were the timeline. They were the proof. They were the silent witnesses that Jodi Arias had tried to kill along with Travis. When the prosecution assembled them in order, from the afternoon shots, to the shower shots, to the accidental fall of the camera, to the reflection in the mirror, they told the entire story of June 4th, 2008, in photographs and nothing else. No testimony required. The camera had already told the truth. The trial of Jodi Arias began on January 2nd, 2013, in Phoenix, Arizona, in the courtroom of Judge Sherry Stevens. The prosecutor was a man named Juan Martinez. He was a short, intense, famously aggressive litigator who had spent 25 years at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office and had never lost a death penalty case. The defense attorneys were Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot, court-appointed lawyers who had been given what most legal commentators considered an unwinnable case. The only charge was first-degree murder. The only possible outcome, if convicted, was life in prison or death. From the opening arguments, it was clear that this trial was going to be different from any other murder trial in American television history. The cable network HLN, the crime-focused spin-off of CNN, decided to broadcast the entire trial live, gavel to gavel, for as long as it took. Other networks followed. The courtroom had cameras in every corner. The jurors sat behind a one-way barrier. The gallery filled every day, with observers lining up before sunrise for a chance to sit in the rows. The Jodi Arias trial became, almost overnight, the most watched criminal proceeding in America since O.J. Simpson. Juan Martinez built his case brick by brick. He brought in the medical examiner. He brought in Detective Flores. He brought in forensic technicians. He brought in the friends of Travis Alexander, one after another, to testify about Jodi's obsession, her stalking, her threats. He introduced the photographs from the camera. He introduced the bloody palm print. He introduced the rental car records, the gas cans, the stolen gun, the hair dye, the 1,000-mile drive. By the time the prosecution rested, there was not a single juror in that box who did not know, with absolute certainty, that Jodi Arias had killed Travis Alexander on the afternoon of June 4th, 2008. Then the defense made the decision that would define the rest of the trial. They put Jodi Arias on the witness stand. She testified for 18 days. Let that number sit. 18 days. Not 18 hours, not 18 sessions. 18 full court days of direct examination, cross-examination, and redirect. No defendant in Arizona history had ever testified that long. Very few defendants in American history had ever testified that long. In most murder trials, the defendant never takes the stand at all because the risk is catastrophic. Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot had decided that the only path to saving her life was to let America see her, hear her, judge her for themselves. The decision was, in retrospect, the decision that doomed her. For the first several days, her direct testimony was controlled and careful. She described her childhood. She described meeting Travis. She described her conversion to Mormonism. And then she began describing the relationship itself, in language that grew more graphic and more extreme with each session. She described Travis as a predator. She described him as abusive. She described specific sexual acts she said he had demanded. She described him calling her names. She described feeling afraid of him. She cried on the stand. She spoke softly. She projected the demeanor of a woman who had been destroyed by a man and was finally getting to tell her story. Then Juan Martinez began his cross-examination. And something changed. The first thing that changed was her voice. She became defensive. She began answering questions with questions. She began contradicting her own earlier testimony. She began saying the phrase, "I don't remember," so often that the jurors started counting. When Martinez asked her about a specific statement she had made to police, she would deny making it. Then he would play the video of her making it, and she would pivot and say she had been confused. When he asked her about a document she had written, she would minimize it. Then he would read her own handwriting back to her, and she would say she had been in a bad state of mind when she wrote it. The jury watched this. The nation watched this. For hours a day, every day, week after week, Americans tuned in to HLN and watched Juan Martinez dismantle Jodi Arias in real time. She became a national fixation. Her face appeared on magazine covers. Comedians made jokes about her on late-night television. Her trial was parodied on Saturday Night Live. Observers drove across state lines to sit in the gallery. The judge had to issue rulings about courtroom decorum because of how intensely the public was responding. And through all of it, Jodi Arias remained on the stand. 18 days, thousands of questions, contradictions multiplying by the hour. The longer she spoke, the worse she made her own case. The more details she offered, the more the jurors realized she was not a battered woman telling her story. She was a calculating woman performing one. On May 8, 2013, after more than 4 months of trial, the jury returned its verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict took them less than 15 hours of deliberation to reach. When the word guilty was read, Jodi Arias did not cry. She did not react. She sat, still, looking forward, as if she had known this was coming all along. The family of Travis Alexander, sitting in the gallery, held each other and wept. But the trial was not over. Under Arizona law, a first-degree murder conviction carrying the possibility of the death penalty moves into a sentencing phase, a separate phase, a new set of arguments. The same jury would have to decide whether Jodi Arias deserved to be executed by the state of Arizona, or whether she would serve life in prison. And this is where the case entered territory that stunned even experienced legal observers. The sentencing phase began in mid-May 2013. Both sides presented additional evidence. Witnesses spoke about Travis Alexander's character. Witnesses spoke about Jodi Arias's background. The jury listened. The jury deliberated. And on May 23, 2013, the jury announced that it could not reach a unanimous decision on whether Jodi Arias should live or die. Under the right, under Arizona law, to address the second jury directly, which she did for more than 4 hours, standing at a podium in the courtroom, speaking without a lawyer, attempting to convince 12 new strangers that her life was worth sparing. The second jury deliberated for 4 days, and on March 5, 2015, they announced that they, too, could not reach a unanimous decision. A second hung jury, in a single case, on the question of the death penalty. It was an outcome so rare in Arizona history that prosecutors described it afterward as unprecedented. With 2 hung juries, Arizona law removed the option of the death penalty entirely. The final sentencing fell to Judge Sherry Stevens alone. On April 13, 2015, Judge Stevens sentenced Jodi Arias to life in prison without the possibility of release. Ever. No parole. No eligibility for early release. She would die in prison. The only question was when. Travis Alexander's family stood in the courtroom. His sister Samantha spoke. His brother Stephen spoke. They said that justice, as much as justice can exist after a brother has been murdered in his own home, had finally been reached. They said they no longer wanted to hear the name of the woman who had killed him. They said they wanted to go home and grieve. Jodi Arias was transferred to Arizona State Prison Complex Perryville in Goodyear, Arizona, where she remains today. Travis Alexander was 30 years old when he died. He had planned a trip to Cancun with a woman he was starting to love. He had planned to come home and change his life. He had planned to start over. His family still visits his grave in Riverside, California. His sister Samantha has spent the years since his death speaking to other families of murder victims, helping them navigate the legal system, helping them survive what she survived. His brother Stephen has done the same. They have built something out of his absence. They have made his memory into a form of service. Jodi Arias, in Perryville State Prison, has built something else. She runs, through intermediaries, a website that sells her paintings and drawings to the public. She has posted statements from prison. She has given interviews. She has maintained, for more than a decade, that she is a victim of a broken system, of an aggressive prosecutor, of a media that turned her into a caricature. She has never, in any public statement, accepted responsibility for what she did on the afternoon of June 4, 2008. She has never apologized to the family of Travis Alexander. She has never admitted that the photographs from the camera in the washing machine told the truth. She is 54 years old. She will be 55 in July. She will be 60. She will be 70. She will be 80. She will spend every day of every year of the rest of her life inside those walls. The woman who testified for 18 days, who held the attention of an entire nation, who turned her own words into the prosecution's strongest evidence, now lives in a silence of her own making, broken only by the sound of a cell door closing each night at count. This is the first case file in our Courtroom Obsession series. Jodi Arias spoke for 18 days. She spoke until there was nothing left for a jury to doubt. She spoke herself into a life sentence. But the next defendant in this series did the opposite. The next defendant said almost nothing at all for the 31 days that mattered most. And that silence, that refusal to speak, created one of the most controversial acquittals in American legal history. Her name was Casey Anthony. Her daughter was Kaylee. And the truth of what happened in that house in Orlando remains, even now, a wound that the country has never closed. My name is Miles GhostHunter. This was the case of Jodi Arias. Remove this story from your mind tonight if you can. Tomorrow, we open another file.